Well, hello, Mr. Soros. Welcome back in a happy Mercury retrograde from myself and my little kamikaze Valkyrie over here. I wanted to just come on here and hopefully provide you a little bit more insight and guidance to this time of year that happens periodically. So, first and foremost, Mercury retrograde always gets a bad rap, okay? And I know a lot of different things are blamed on Mercury retrograde moments. When for example, I just had a Mercury retrograde moment with my other mic. I got through a whole little spiel, and then as I'm reviewing the video, the mic had cut out halfway through and you couldn't hear the rest of my recording. So here I am. I'm going to re record for y'all what I have put together. And that is a beautiful, typical Mercury retrograde little moment. And I wanted to showcase that because Mercury retrograde is not the end of the world. It, again, happens often and periodically every single year. And I will go into what it is a good time for, but it can create little moments like that. But is it the only time when such things happen? No, of course not. We flub emails and have issues with things being charged and getting around town and all of that at all different points in the year and time. So I'm your astrologer who is always going to remind that astrology is a tool to help guide us, to help inform us. It is not the only or silver bullet answer. And I caution approaching it super religiously in the sense that if you will not do anything without consulting your astrology, or if you think that every Mercury retrograde you cannot do anything and you have to stop all things, and it's going to be this really volatile or this time of like where you got to be a hermit or something. No, it's not the end of the world, not by any means. Now that said, of course I will 100% lean into Mercury retrogrades are not the best time to start something brand new in your life. So if you have the ability to push something off, like signing a new contract, especially a new agreement, a new deal, if you have the ability to do that and push it off for our time right now until March 22nd of 2026 ideally, then great. And I always say, why not pick a more opportune time for such things? I don't think it could hurt. That said, though, if you do need to sign a new deal or agreement, and my apologies, I know I'm like looking everywhere in this video. I'm trying something a little new here with recording. I'm still trying to figure out my recording stuff, period. Y'all who are with me right now, this is the beginning of all of this. So, you all that are with me since the beginning, but hopefully production qualities will just continue to improve. So, sidebar there. But where I was going is that if you do need to sign such things, right? If you do need to make a new agreement, a new deal, whatever, is it again the end of the world? No, it is not. And because it is not the most opportune time for such things, I would just encourage to really triple, quadruple check that all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, that really everything is super clear, that whomever you're trying to communicate with, no matter the channel, is really understanding you, is really getting what you're trying to communicate, and vice versa, that you are really understanding, really hearing what is trying to be communicated to you. But I always say, like, if you are a business owner, let's say, if you run like a communications or media company or something, there's no way that you're going to be able to shut down operations for a few weeks, a few times a year. So this is why I say, like, don't make it out to be this like horrific time that only negative things happen and that you have to like not communicate at all in fear of something being misinterpreted or going south. Like, nah. Okay, now all of that said, it is a really good time. Mercury retrograde is actually a really good time to lean into the re's. So to revisit something, to renew, to rethink, to restart, to revise, to reflect. Uh, so if there's something from the past, is where I'm going. If there's something from the past that has fallen off that you have been thinking about restarting, beautiful time to do that. Maybe there is something that you need to rethink and reflect on before moving forward, right? Or you need to review something before publishing it, let's say. Beautiful time for such things, okay? Now, if you want to take it to the next level, for those here, my astrology gente, my astrology folk, who already are a little bit more tuned into your chart and you have your natal or your birth chart, an easy way to always see like where's Mercury retrograde impacting more my little bubble, then you can look to see, because we have Mercury in Pisces right now, what house is ruled by Pisces in your birth chart. Now, Mercury in Pisces, it's fallen in Pisces. And if you're like, whoa, what is that? No worries. All it means is it's not comfortable in Pisces. Mercury's not comfortable in the sign, in the energetic sign of Pisces. So that can mean a little bit of a harder Mercury retrograde, and for some of us more than others. But again, I caution feeling like, it's the end of the world. It's not. Now, with that said, again, for those that have their charts and know how to at least find what house like is ruled by what sign, if you go to your chart and find where 22 degrees Pisces is, what is the house that 22 degrees Pisces lands in, that is where the current Mercury retrograde is going to be in. And a quick review: if it lands in the first house, and we have 12 houses in the chart, and I'm talking Western astrology, okay? So this is also Western Jungian astrology. So we have 12 houses in the chart. And if it's in the first house, that's the house of self, sometimes called the house of personality. So this even rules how we physically show up, like our appearance, our style, the way we choose to present ourselves into the world. And this is also how the world interprets us. So sometimes you could even think like the social mask we might even wear is here. But literally, it's like how we physically are showing up and ourselves, and also how the world interacts with us, perceives us. If it's in the second house, and I'm going over these themes in this way to say, just think of the big themes and kind of go, if Mercury's falling, if Mercury retrograde is falling in that area of my chart for these next few weeks, that's what's emphasized. What might I need to really revisit, review, renew, rethink, restart, reflect on in that particular area of my life? So again, that was just the first house, house of self, house of personality sometimes. The second house is the house of value, sometimes called the house of money. So, yes, money, how we earn money lives there, but it's really value, what we believe in. This also can be a lot around self confidence, sort of how we feel about self and our relationship to how we connect our self worth to uh money, frankly. To do we do that, or do we know that we are worthy regardless of the bank account, right? So just that is, again, money is heavily emphasized normally in this modern era in the second house, but it's really about what we value as a whole. So are you aligned? Are you making money with are you aligned with what you value or not? I don't know. That's a question to ask self. Third house of communication. So in the third house, that's ruled by Mercury. So the third house of communication is all forms of communication, but it also is like transportation, going out and about around town. It's also our dynamics and our relationships with siblings. Cousin dynamics could be in this house as well, and learning and education, but not at a like university or higher level. We're talking like, K through 12 education, or courses, certifications, things like that are ruled by that third house. The fourth house is the house of home. So literally the home that you create for yourself, the physical home, but it's also our ancestry. It can give us some insight into the dynamics and relationships with parent figures. But it's personal roots, it's going deep. And so it can also be really about like the childhood home. So not only the home we create for ourselves, but the home we were raised in, the childhood home and experience. Hence why ancestry and our roots are there. The fifth house is house of creativity and expression, and also children are ruled by the fifth house. The children that you would birth, if you have any, or if you're surrounded by a lot of children or have children heavily in your life, like children are ruled by the fifth house. But it's also house of creative self-expression. So this is Also a house that rules love affairs. Okay, not necessarily marriage and not necessarily just our sexuality, but literally love affairs. Could lead to something more, could not, kind of deal. But play is here. It is a little bit of a pleasure house, but I want to lean more into that self expression piece, into that creative expression piece, because a lot of like creativity and our creative outlets also live in that fifth house. The sixth house is the house of day-to-day work. And so it is like the work job sort of house, but also our health is there, and it's the house of being of service. So this also can give us insight into what we need in our day-to-day routines. How do you manage your day-to-day, not only work routine, but kind of what you do in life to also stay healthy, right? To nurture yourself. So, are you not focusing in certain areas there? Have you been maybe not prioritizing your health? Or maybe this also is acts of service. Like, this is where being of service lives. So, maybe there's something there to reflect on, needing to be more of service or less, maybe. The seventh house, if it falls in the seventh house, this is the house of what I would say sort of serious, committed, like one-on-one relationships. So marriage is lives in this house, business partnerships, but even contractual relationships with like attorneys and CPAs can live in this house. um Open enemies even live in this house. Not so much the dynamics maybe between you and your parents or your kids, but like close friendships live in this house as well. That's why sort of the intimate, very intimate dynamics, but contractual relationships live there too. Marriage is usually the one that is heavily emphasized, but it is not the only intimate, committed type of serious relationship, obviously, that lives in that house. The eighth house, sometimes it is referred to as the house of death, but that sounds so heavy, right? But birth and death absolutely are there. But this is the house of, well, it is intense, but it's very instinctual. Our just hardcore straight sexuality, it lives and is ruled by this house. But it's also the house of shared resources. So, do you share any resources with others? If you are in a marriage, then you do. But you don't have to be married, right? To share resources with another being, another human being. So this is also how other people's stuff can impact you. Like, are you having to help deal, caretaking for family member would even be in the eighth house kind of deal. But this also can be the place where the taboo even lives. Astrology can live in the eighth house, for example. So anything where you might be thinking of like, or the occult, right? Anything that would be considered in the occult usually, or even, things, yeah, it's still kind of taboo in society, whatever that may be at the current time, would live or would be ruled by the eighth house. So, I don't know, any of those matters in life might be highlighted for you during this time, or you might want to, be reviewing them if Mercury retrograde falls in your eighth house. All right, ninth house, the ninth house of the chart. This sometimes is called house of journeys, but really I want you to think about it as this is the house of higher learning. This is the house where things like university learning, things like that live, but philosophy, religion lives in the ninth house as well. This is the house of foreign. So whatever is foreign to you, meaning like foreign travel, other countries, other cultures, other languages, other belief systems, religions, ways of being, all of that, whatever is other for you, different, right? That lives in the ninth house. Now, this is also, ninth house can also be a placement of the teacher. So those who teach as much as those who maybe are learning at that higher level, right? That can also be ruled by the ninth house. So that education, that foreign travel, big travel, we're not just talking traveling around town. That's the third house. We're talking like crossing borders here, right? And again, belief systems, it's a big one. That's why philosophy and all that live there. Now, in the 10th house is often called the house of career, but it's really, think of it as the public stage. Your reputation lives in that 10th house. So while the sixth house is more like the day-to-day work, right? The work routine, this could be like my team members, my day-to-day job, if I have one, all of that. But the 10th house, we're talking like career pathway. And hence why this is also more reputation and the public spotlight and how you may or may not show up in that public spotlight. but thinking much bigger, right? And also, 10th house, I don't want to get this too fuzzy, but 10th house also shows us some other serious areas of life, can even influence things like marriage and stuff, but I'm getting on a sidebar here. Just no overarching, right? It is more sort of the career house overall. The 11th house is often considered the house of friendships. Now, it goes beyond that, though. It's not just friendships in general. This is also any membership groups you might be a part of, associations, clubs, right? All of that, like any groups of individuals. So, it doesn't matter what, it could even be like a sports club, right? Or something like that. That is all in the or ruled by the 11th house. But the 11th house also rules like our future ambitions and dreams. So your future goals, what are you aspiring to? What do you want to build into? What do you want to manifest? All of that also falls in the 11th house. And then last but not least, the 12th house. So the 12th house goes by various names depending on where you read about it. But really, I like to frame it as this is the house of the subconscious and the unconscious, of the dream world. This is the house where things are put behind the scenes. So at a societal level, it rules things like prison systems and mental institutions, places that we put people to kind of put them behind the scenes of society, right? So if you think at an individual level, at our little personal bubble levels, the 12th house is sort of what is behind the scenes, but also it does rule those areas of us, hence dream world, subconscious, the unconscious, that are not something we are actively normally super conscious about. So it can also be a very spiritual placement, right? The 12th house can also give us a lot of insight into someone's spiritual journey, but inevitably that is the 12th house. Now, because it is a bit behind the scenes in some classic astrological literature, you're hear it called like the house of troubles, because it's, all the things that are in our brains and all that. Like, what I mean by that is like all our all of the things that trigger us, right? All those things that are just deeply ingrained, that again in impact and, you could say, inform our behavior, but that we are not always super conscious about. But we can work to bring that into consciousness, and we can work to reprogram such things and all of that. We can work to heal it. But that's where all of that stuff would technically sort of live. So, with all of that said, again, knowing all of this, no matter the Mercury retrograde, you can always see what sign is the Mercury retrograde and at what degree. And right now we're at 22 degrees Pisces. Go to the natal chart, see what house is ruled by that sign for you, and that'll give you a little bit of a deeper insight into what specific area of life for you might give you the most impact, positive result by revisiting, rethinking, reviewing things in that particular area of your life for these few weeks. So, all right, mis tesoros, I hope that that gave you some food for thought and something to play around with. Please comment down below if you know where your where the current Mercury retrograde is hitting in your chart. For me right now, it's in my fifth house of creativity and all of that. And I am about to restart my newsletter, writing, communication, right? All of that. And it's a good time for such things to restart something that I let go of in the past. So, what is that for you? Comment down below if you're willing to share. Please give me a like. Please subscribe. I am just building this channel, and there's so much more to come from me, from my little beautiful criatura, my beautiful beast, as I like to call her back here, who I'm sure you'll be seeing plenty more of. I wish you a really awesome Mercury retrograde season. I'll be back with plenty more. Please stick around. And again, like, subscribe, share, comment, all the things. Let's help get this some traction. Let's help start building this community. But I will leave you with just my final thought of, if at the minimum you can walk away with this feeling a little bit more at ease and knowing that, again, it's not the end of the world this time frame by any means. It's just these periodic episodes that we are given that force us to kind of just take a little bit of a breath, try to not do things maybe too impulsively, really double and triple and quadruple check that we are understanding what is being communicated to us and vice versa. And inevitably is a beautiful time to do all the re's. All right, wishing you a wonderful Mercury retrograde. Cuídense, take care. Until next time. Mwah. Besos, bellos. Ciao, ciao.